joining another community event here on Future Ready Educators powered by Strive Education. I am looking forward to this conversation. Jason is a phenomenal educator and entrepreneur, teacher. He is an author of the latest and greatest new book, Brand Up, and content contributor here on FRE, in the FRE Future Ready Educator community. And you can go check out all of his content, which leads to today's event, which we're talking about entrepreneurship, personalized learning, and just the journey he's been on with students and how you guys can start something new in your classroom this fall with some really great actionable steps that you can start to implement right away. This is not anything that's going to take years to implement. We're going to give you some very quick things that you can start in your classroom this fall. And he's going to go through a presentation that he's done many times this summer. And we're excited to have Jason be joining us. Jason, welcome.
Thank you, Taylor. It is so cool to be here with you. I am excited to share with everyone, and always excited to share some stories of my students. Their journeys are fun. They're full of energy, and anytime I get a chance to share what they're doing, it's very prideful for me, and I get excited about it. So thanks again.
Yeah, you bet. Jason and I connected years ago, back in the day, and little did we know our paths would cross again. And he had reached out about his book, and just so happens, just with everything going on in our world with digital media and broadcasting, and our vision of creating some entrepreneurship content, our worlds collided again. And I'm so very thankful for that. And I think a lot of things he's going to share with you is going to provide you a ton of value. So for those of you watching the recording, we've got a PDF that will attach to this. And if you want to connect with Jason to learn more, do a call with him to get access to the slides and things like that, we'd ask you to go ahead and get a hold of him. We'll get his email here in there as well. And you can connect with him in FRE. You can send him a direct message. But Jason, go ahead. He's got some slides for us to go through. I'll hand it over to you. And I'm really looking forward to learning something new today with you.
Awesome. Well, the good news is most of my slides are pictures, so not a lot of things to remember as far as words are concerned. So that's always good in the presentation. Also, I like to start just by saying that this journey started for me because I was creating something that I had not taught before. Entrepreneurship was new to me. I needed to create a curriculum from scratch. There wasn't something that I was walking into. And so I just tried to do what I like to do, and that's create a fun learning environment for kids. This particular presentation stems from my own end of the year reflection that I like to do. And it's not always the same reflection, but this time I was at the same time looking for a potential presentation to give at a local conference. And I like to tie my previous year's works into that. And I found this article about personalized learning that was published by ISTE. And when I was reading it, I started to think how I use the term personalized learning in my own classroom. And I almost wanted to use this article as my reflection and sort of compare and contrast what I was doing to what some of the things the article suggested. And that's what we're going to do today. We're going to sort of go through that original article. She's got a checklist of 5 points, and we're going to see if the experiences that we create in the entrepreneurship class for my middle school students really does allow me to use the term personalized experience when we're talking to parents and other colleagues. So excited, and I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, and we'll get started, okay? All right, so this is a presentation I've given a couple of times. I do have another one coming up in a few months as well. The only thing that changes, truthfully, are the pictures get updated as we're doing this more often. But what I like to do is start with defining the terms so that we're all on the same page. So when we talk about entrepreneurship, we are, sorry, I'm off my slide. There we go. When we talk about entrepreneurship, we're talking about the chance for students to build something from nothing. We don't talk too much about money, to be honest with you, until very late in the semester. So it's not really about that. It's more about the journey of creation and seeing how their creativity can allow them to solve some problems socially and things that the consumers might want. But we do talk about sort of not copying things that are already done, but improving on them. So really having to be innovative. And that's something that we do hold as a requirement for any project ideas that the students have. So the second thing that we're going to talk about today is personalized learning. And again, for a textbook definition, right, we're talking about blended instructions so that students really can guide their own learning. And there's three ways. We have face-to-face teaching, because hopefully I'm not obsolete yet, although chat is coming after me, I think. No, I'm just kidding. Technology-assisted instruction. We've got to embed technology. It is not chalkboards and textbooks anymore. And then finally, allowing the chance for students to get some real-world opportunities to collaborate with each other, with me, with kids in other classes, and hopefully with people in the community outside the walls. So that's really what we're putting ourselves up against as a 7th and 8th grade curriculum. All right, so that sort of sets where we are. And the article that I had found originally was by a woman named Robin Houghton, and she had written this article that was published by ISTE about turning your classroom into a personalized learning environment. And I wanted to remind everyone of the title because it's nothing to do with entrepreneurship. This is something that we all could be striving for, and I just happen to do it through the lens of entrepreneurship. And so that'll be the examples we see. But keep in mind this whole time how, regardless of the curriculum you're teaching, this might be something you can take pieces of or go for all 5 benchmarks and see how real this can get for you. So here are the benchmarks, right? Learning from others, using the technology they have, allowing choices, choosing the best content delivery method. And I look at that in 2 ways: how the students consume the information and the content, but also how they present out the content that they've learned and show mastery of the information. And then finally, assessing as they go, not just at the end with a summative, but to have these formative check-ins along the way is a really important part of the process for personalized learning, because you got to make sure that the things they're looking at when they have these choices are guiding them to the outcomes that were desired. So, all right, let's get to it. We're going to find out if we check all these boxes. So to set the stage for the class that we're talking about, we're primarily looking at my 8th graders. There'll be an instance or two that I flash back to my 7th graders for a moment, but to be clear, this is students who have taken my entrepreneurship intro class and are now signing up for the lab, which is a typically 8th grade class. I've had one 7th grader in 3 years who's taken it. So that's sort of the stage that we're looking at. And as a lab, I've designed it in a way that the kids have a lot of free time, okay? Think of it as like the Google hour, but for 5 hours a week. And really creating this space for them to apply the things they learned in the previous class, where in that level 1, it was a lot of directed from me. Now let's take that where we didn't have time last time to really explore. And so the lab setting allows us to do it, and the name was intentional. So to accomplish all this free time, we really only have 2 major tracks that we're working towards in this class. A passion project, where kids can work alone or in a group of up to 3 to create an original entrepreneurial venture. It should be something that they're interested in, a passion that they have, and should be something we can accomplish, but there's never the stress of having to make a sale. So we don't ever think of success on, did we sell anything? But that challenge always looms. This semester was the first time anyone made a sale, and it actually happened on our Shark Tank presentation, where one of the judges ended up buying out all the candles that these young ladies made. And we'll talk about that a little bit later. So that's half the class, is this idea of creating a business from start to finish. They all are going to end with a Shark Tank, and this is the second time they've done a Shark Tank, because they also end the level 1 class with it. So this was the 6 groups that presented in my last round right before summer break. We had some young ladies who were going to go ahead and create that candle company. And these sharks, by the way, are all alumni of our school or parent volunteers who do not have kids in that class. So they're not presenting to my teacher. Yeah, Taylor.
Yeah, you read my mind. What did the process look like for selecting them? Are they business owners, investors? Give us
So
kind of a glance, because I could see that potentially being if someone's watching this and thinking about building an entrepreneurship class and doing a Shark Tank model, which I'm a huge fan of, is What did that, just give us a quick little clip of what that looked like for you
Yeah,
selecting?
so we're lucky to have had the opportunity to bring in some pretty amazing people. Um, on the left, we're talking actually the left, and then with the beard over there, they're both hedge fund investors. This is what they do. Yes, they're alumni from our school, but they graduated, 10, 12 years ago from high school. So they are in the business world. The woman who you can't see all the way to the right, she's a member of Mensa. She's actually the one who purchased all these candles from these young ladies to make it the first official sale because they play with Monopoly money in our Shark Tank project. And so the shark happened to know one of the young ladies' moms and Venmoed her a couple of bucks and said, "I just want to let you know how good your girls did." And that's another thing. It's a community. We're a K through 12 school, so everyone knows each other. And these alumni have kids in our school who are in, you know, primary school, and they're going to take this class one day. And so it's really full circle. It's really amazing. So yeah, these ladies did a great job. We also had some boys who were interested in technology. They decided they were going to create a almost like a iFix your phone business, but for the Nintendo Switch. Because apparently they get a lot of drift in the controllers, if you know that lingo. We had these guys who were going to go ahead and they were going to make brownies, but energy bar brownies. And that was a fun adventure. I'll just leave it at that. But their graphics are cool. We just have the opportunity to create lots of things. And that's
Yeah,
why
the brownie, or this was just a concept that they created?
no, they brought the brownies in
They
and they
did.
shaped them. Oh yeah, it was shaped like a lightning bolt, which was their whole gimmick. It was cool. They found a lightning bolt cake pan on the internet and purchased one. I give them a budget that we never talk about the actual number. It's a private school; they can spend money. So, um, on the left, we have my first seventh grader who took this class. He wanted to go with something trending on social media right now, which are all these subscription boxes. So he found ways to purchase, interesting flavored snacks and different flavor profiles. What he realized was that there's no money in that, and he had to include T-shirts and other swag because the profit margins on those things were so much bigger. And that's the only way that would have worked for him, although we never actually sold a box. We did have these two young men create a drone real estate photography company. Imagine in eighth grade. So pretty cool. This is an old one, but I love it. This kid started with the idea that he wanted to build a business around board games and then realized how challenging that was and that kids don't like board games anymore, apparently. What kids do like are collectible things that they don't know what's in the bag or in the box, and they buy millions of them, like LOL dolls and all these Ryan surprise toys and stuff. So he decided he was going to teach kids to love planting gardens by creating a collectible minifig set of pigs. Now these were just prototypes. He settled, I think, with one that was around the size of the second to first one with the piggy bank looking top. But again, he was going to sell them in surprise boxes. You were going to get soil and seeds and a little spray bottle for water with his logo on it. And it was super cool. And then I always like to talk about this project because it talks about iteration so much. This is a young man whose first idea was, I want to create an action figure that you can paint. And he brought the orange figure to me first and said, I'm done. I said, I don't know if anybody would play with that. And I think it might be hard to paint on orange. Why'd you make those choices? And when he couldn't answer me, I made him go back to the drawing board. He then came back with the guy in the middle who's painted like he's got a Fonzie jacket on and no other clothes. And we said that, the idea is getting closer. It's definitely something we can paint on now. But again, it looks more like a statue than a toy. He went back to the 3D printer and we got this third figure who's clearly articulated. It was still a little bit too big, and so the one in the box is the one that he ended up going with. But then all he was ended up with was a 3D action figure and a idea that you should paint it. I reminded him of toys in the 80s like He-Man and stuff, or Ninja Turtles, and you learn the story by watching the cartoon or by reading the comic book. And so that's what you see inside the box. The Journey of Blankton is like a 10-page comic book that he then had to write to tell the story about why you're painting this character, which was cool because it then introduced bad guys and it introduced vehicles and play sets. And so although he never got past actually like cutting out a cardboard box and then printing some stuff to make a box, he never sold one. he got to really see prototyping, storytelling, knowing your audience, and the journey over. We're talking 18 weeks, not too, and probably not even because of the time it takes to come up with the idea at first. So this is the type of work we're talking about, yeah, that we're putting to the test.
Yeah, I've got a couple questions on this one. So, love the iteration in this visual and then just how you took him through that process. Was he frustrated by the feedback?
He was, but there's always a but, right? This is the kid who ended up becoming the ninth grade class president. So,
Wow.
so that drive was in him. I don't think students, especially the ones I know, are used to being challenged on creativity.
Mm,
They want to take a math test, know what they got right or wrong, and then relearn the ones they got wrong. And to them, that's learning. And that is for sure. This is different. Normally, these kids are used to handing in a project and showing it to the teacher the first time it's due. And that's what you turn in, and that's where the process ends. That's what makes this different, right? The idea of assessing as you go doesn't happen when you're learning, and then taking a test at the end, and then you move on to the next. I have to keep the curriculum tight with these two projects in order to allow the space for this to happen. But you could do this with one project, to be clear, and the learning would not be that much different because, in fact, it might be better because they're going to have more time to do these kinds of things rather than having to divide their attention. So I'd like to think I'm doing a good job with the two projects that we're doing, but even in my own reflection here, right, it's unlimited. It's a business, right? There's no time limit on when you get it right. You don't.
yeah, yeah, we're 11 years in to our company, and we've always had a core belief, core value of education, and we're just now through years of iteration rebranding to Strive Education. Like that is our company name, and it's been frustrating. It's been amazing, all the different emotions that go through that. But if when we look back and go, man, look at the growth and what we learned, and if we would have done this years ago, and so you look at a project like this, and you're basically fast tracking a student to learn that through this little mini project, which is phenomenal. It is frustrating working with Danielle and our team. We had a one-on-one last week, and she, you could tell she's kind of defeated a little bit because I kept giving her feedback on the designs because the first design she created wasn't the final design. It's really, really hard to develop that mindset and to get that in junior high. My goodness,
Well,
that is
and
an absolute game changer for a student.
think about the
You know,
mindset you were in having to give that feedback. You at
yeah,
least you were giving it to an adult. I have to give it to a 13-year
yeah,
old. That's really
yeah,
hard for me too, because
yeah.
I'm so proud of every step along the way. So to end that proud moment with, but now we got to improve it. I
Mm,
know it's the right thing to do, and so I say it. But I really just, I want to congratulate them all the way through. So creating that environment, that safety zone, it's important, and it doesn't have to be entrepreneurship we're talking about. Again, to go back to it, I don't care if this is a math class where you're teaching, you know, different perspectives or how, I don't know, I'm not good at math, but whatever you might teach in a math class, right? This could be a history project where you're, using 3D printers to recreate artifacts that were found. I had a friend who did that and then partnered with a museum, and the museum displayed the 3D prototypes because the originals were too fragile. So, I mean, be a creative teacher, and this stuff can take you anywhere. But we're going to come back to all this cool stuff. So let's go on. So that other door that we're talking about opening, right? So we just got really excited about that one piece. But again, I was just trying to give you a reference of what it is we're doing as we try to meet these 5 standards. The other thing we do is called the Mills 50 Project. And that's because our school is located in the Mills 50 district. And this is my intentional way of saying, this is going to be the project that we connect with local leaders, local businesses. And the way we do that might change from semester to semester or from year to year. But I want to make sure that we don't get siloed into just creating this one thing that we want to make for ourselves or we think the market wants. But we also sort of get that exposure to the real world. And I think there's a lot to learn from that as well, as you're going to see. As much as I love those passion projects, I'm really proud of what we've been able to come up with for this one. So I'll show you a breakdown of it. These are a couple of examples of what we've done. The last few years, we've primarily done projects for two different individuals, one being the owner of a restaurant called Pig Floyd's, and then the other individual being our actual school, where they had a new building that is opening in just a few weeks and a student union space that had not yet been imagined. So really, these are different projects. So in 2020, the first thing we ever did was Peggy's Luncheonette. Because it was COVID time, we couldn't present it to him live. We couldn't have the guest speakers that we're going to talk about in a second. So we did a lot of learning online, a lot of video watching on YouTube, and then presented our work to him in a 10-minute or 12-minute documentary. Then after COVID was over, we could invite guest speakers, and the stuff you'll see that I'm really proud of is when that started happening. And that's when one of the projects we did was Sugar Mommy versus Sugar Poppy, and that was for the same owner of Pig Floyd's, who we did the luncheonette for. He challenged us to create two dessert concepts, one on the higher end, one on the family-friendly end, so we can have a little healthy competition in class. And then what we also did, and again, it's part of the Mills 50 project because that's where our school is. I mean, you know the school I'm talking about. This is their high school that they're opening this year. It's pretty amazing. So the stuff we're going to talk about after this picture is not surprising, I guess, but there's a student union space in there that hadn't been imagined. And so when we weren't doing the project for Thomas Ward, we actually shifted gears a little bit and worked on this. And it brought in a lot of cool connections to our school campus. So again, the kids were given floor plans and then they were off to the races, and that's what we're going to get to. All right. So without further ado, we're getting to that checklist. First, learning from others. Let's see if in these two projects we've created the spaces and what spaces we've created for them to learn from people other than me. Again, if I'm the smartest person in the room, I got to get another room. And I always believe that, right? So guest speakers, cross-curricular activities, group work, and then research are going to be our examples for learning from others, right? So in terms of guest speakers, first of all, this project all started when I had him as a guest speaker for just as a business owner. I just wanted to get entrepreneurs in Orlando because I was new to the area. A friend of a friend introduced me to this guy, and he came in, and as you can see there by the time, he gave an hour and 10-minute Zoom talk. And at the end of that, decided that he was going to drop and I can't wait to create a luncheonette one day. And so when he said that, we decided that's going to be a challenge. And so that's where Peggy's Luncheonette came from. He's going to join us lots more after that event. But that was the first sort of sign in my mind that we can create projects for the local community when he agreed to do it. Also bringing guest speakers in, not just for my class, but for the whole school to get them excited about entrepreneurship. More kids sign up for the class. This is a billionaire by the name of Jeff Hoffman, who actually was one of the founders of Priceline.com. He had a connection to our school, and so I made a phone call. I'm not afraid to make a phone call, and he graciously came in. To be honest, it wasn't a great presentation. I wasn't totally inspired by it, but he had pictures of him with Pitbull and LeBron James on a yacht, and so that's all the kids needed to see to build up the excitement that I was originally looking for. So it worked a little bit differently than I thought it would, but it was cool nonetheless. I then found out another connection to our school was like one of the most brilliant chefs in Orlando. And so we were doing a luncheonette. We were going to do these dessert restaurants. We were doing the Student Union Cafe. Let's get a chef in here because I'm not one. And so I brought in another guest speaker to present to our students. They got to ask questions, and that was a lot of fun. And then specifically for the project we were doing for our school, I thought it was important our guest speakers were connected to the school. So the young ladies that you see here are on our advancement team, and they were really the people leading the way in raising funds for the new building and really the cheerleaders of it. So definitely bringing them in for some early perspective. This is Danielle. She's our marketing lead at our school. So bringing her in to help the students with branding and different ways that they might market their ideas. We have an amazing coffee shop across the street. So this is Q, and he's a local business owner who is all about innovation. And I think you can get the gist just by seeing the inside of his coffee shop, the kind of person he's about. So when we were talking about innovative ideas and businesses, it was important for me to bring in someone who the kids could relate to, and they all know him because they go to get coffee at his shop, but also someone who really had a strong message. And that was great. He was probably my guest speaker of all time. Um, I did have another connection because of a student in my class. His dad is the former uh, president of the Golf Channel. And so he was creating this new golf indoor league with Tiger Woods, and we're talking about innovation. And I get an email from him. And so, of course, I invite him in to do it. And this is not like me name dropping. I swear, these people are like falling into my lap. And that's what will happen if you maybe just put like a sign at open house or something like that, looking for guest speakers. Your kids' parents are doing awesome stuff. I just happen to have kids' parents who are doing really awesome stuff. So beyond that, like one of them is a professional golfer, and he or she, her father happens to know Robert Herjavec from Shark Tank. Well, we're doing Shark Tank. She volunteers to write him an email if he would say something to our class. And he responds and he says, yes, I won't play because I'm afraid of feedback. But he drops like a 1 minute, good luck on your Shark Tank project for my students. Well, the following year, I have another student who's watching this video, and she says, well, my cousin was on Shark Tank. I'm like, well, that's cool. And it was this guy on the right of my screen. And he was a teen entrepreneur, just like the kids I'm working with. It was a 5th grade project that he won the prize of getting a patent, and then went on Shark Tank with the patent in 9th grade. I said, that's amazing. Can I talk to your cousin? She's like, well, he's in college now. He lives in California. I'm like, I don't care. Let's call him. So she gives me his phone number with her mom's permission. I call him, and he goes ahead and gives us a 20-minute pump video for our Shark Tank project. He's making fun of his cousin, telling her friends to tell her to get off TikTok, and it was great. And of course, I mean, he's not a good, bad-looking guy, and so all the young ladies in the class are interested already just because he's not, bad to look at. So it was awesome on all fronts. Having having someone from Shark Tank who had gone through the process, so cool. And so guest speakers could look like a lot of things. That's how they look in my class, and I'm very fortunate for that. Something that I don't want to overlook is that a lot of what we do is cross-curricular. I am blessed to have working the next door over from me, our engineering teacher, who's got the 3D printers and the drills and the saws. My kids are not always adept to using that stuff, although if they've taken his class, they might be a little bit better. But we try to really partner our students up a lot. And make sure that when my kids have ideas, they can articulate them to his students who can help them come up with it. Shark Tank, as 7th grade, is required because you must take one of our 2 classes. So every single 7th grader at our school goes through that first iteration of Shark Tank, and after that can choose to take either my level 2 or his level 2 automatically and skip the level 1 if they choose to do that. So really cool. This year we did t-shirts for the first time. So every kid got a t-shirt as like really trying to pump up the event because we recognize how special this is of an opportunity. That also obviously leads to group work. There's lots of it from every perspective. The Shark Tank projects in 7th grade are somewhere between 5 and 7 students deep. By 8th grade, they're 1 to 3. So we do change it a little bit. So group work through all stages, prototyping all the way to presentation. The research, right? They are going to learn from others because they're going to ask others lots of questions. They're going to use Google Forms to create surveys. I had one child who got me in a little bit of trouble this year because he sent out his survey to every single student K through 12. So he's getting like 3rd graders answering his emails and 12th graders wondering why some 7th grader sent them an email with a survey. So that was a little bit of some drama at our school, but it was something I congratulated him with for later because I was proud that he was willing to go the extra mile. They're doing tons of secondary research in lots of different ways, primarily the internet, looking at their competition and media outlets. Of course, they're all on social media. Lots of their ideas are coming from social media, and that's a good thing. All right, so that's step 1. Step 2, are they using technology? As you can see, they are. Let's talk just briefly about what it is. Student technology, Idea Lab, video production, podcast, build space. So they come with a MacBook. Every kid has one. We can get them iPads if they need them. Almost all of them have a phone in their pocket. So creating content is doable. Creating physical things are also doable. We've got the indoor space currently, which is the dust-free zone, I guess we could call it, with the 3D printers and different tools like that. We have a laser cutter. There is a drill press. And there we also had an outdoor space, which we had to shut down because we're building something new. So I didn't include pictures of that. But there was a place for them to use more saws and drills and power tools like that. We do have a video production school class, so we were able to access their studio when needed. This wasn't built for us, but we use it because why not? If class is in and no one's there, let's go for it. I used to teach public speaking, so I asked them to build me a podcasting room, which doesn't get used very often. So if we need to record things, we do that in here as well. Oh, I did include those build space pictures. So yeah, we don't have that anymore though. All right, so number 3, make choices. Are our kids given an opportunity to choose their projects, choose how they learn? I feel like I've already given away the beauty of it, but we're going to go through it anyway. So when they were working for their client project, like Thomas Ward, they can choose whether they wanted to make Sugar Mommy or Sugar Poppy. And then from that decision, we formed groups for them. And I thought that was important to level out the playing field because they are going to be able to choose their own partners for their passion project. So I didn't want it to be redundant in who they worked with. So I let them choose their side, and then I divided that into 2. In their 7th grade project, we just asked that whatever Shark Tank project they come up with has something to do with a connection to one of these 5 ideas, which if you read them really means they can do anything they want. Application choices when they're creating content. We all have Macs, and so they can use any of those software tools. We have Adobe Education. We have Canva for them to use, amongst other things. Whether they want to use Prezi or Google Slides or anything that they can think of when they're making their floor plans. We have a ton of tools that are free and accessible through Google for Education, like SketchUp. And that's their opportunity to make choices. I'm sure I missed 5,000 choices to make along the way. Content delivery. So we already touched on research. We won't get there. But they have an opportunity to create different ways to present their work. So this was that documentary that they created for Peggy's Luncheonette. And it goes through the history of luncheonettes and who's still doing them and why would someone want one today. It goes over the financials and things like that, trying to really build that stage and create that presentation for the owner. Website design. Every project they do, they must have a website attached to it. It's their way of creating an app because we don't have time for app design. So their website serves as their app or their landing spot. When they present everything from their website. So typically they have a homepage, which is what the website would look like. But then all of their subpages are just the different assignments they've created or overviews that they've crafted to tell the story of their journey to the sharks. They're prototyping with everything from popsicle sticks and cardboard all the way up to, you've seen some of the more elaborate things and even this. Not all the way. I have kids who made gum last year, and I had kids who, like I said earlier, were making brownies and different things like that. They're always presenting through a pitch, but of course, as part of their pitch, they're making videos, commercials, jingles, all different aspects of branding and marketing that they might do. Finally, assessing as they go, right? Allowing the opportunity for them to hit those benchmarks along the way. So project iteration, we talked about one example with the action figure. This is an example a little bit different because he started in 7th grade as a Shark Tank project and then couldn't come up with a new idea in 8th grade. So decided to just continue in the lab with the project that he did in the Shark Tank as a 7th grader. He had new teammates this time because they weren't all together again. But he really sort of guided the new group members with his idea. He pitched it to them. They went for it. And so it was one of the first times we had a Shark Tank 7th grade project follow through for a subsequent 18 weeks. And so they got to really take their idea to the next level, which was basically like Connect 4 meets Light Bright, if that makes any sense to you. Interesting concept, but fun. It was meant to be a game / art device. So this is an example. This is not a new one. This only had 3 guest speakers on it. We're up to like 7 guest speakers. But this is the guidelines basically for the Mills 50 project. And so they get introduced to the project by a guest speaker. Then another guest speaker comes in a few weeks later. Another one comes in later. And the part that I haven't mentioned to you yet, which is my favorite part, is that the last day when they present, again, like the Shark Tank projects that they do with their passion project, for the Mills 50, once again, they're not presenting this to me. I bring back all of the guest speakers. So the chef, the coffee shop guy, the advancement team, the marketing lead, all of those people come back after visiting once to guide, to see where their messages sort of aligned with the final products. And it gives more of an intimate opportunity to say, hey, we mentioned this to you. I'm glad you incorporated it. Or that was an interesting decision not to mention that, since it's something we talked about when we had our chat. So they come in with a familiarity of the project already, which gives it a different spin than the Shark Tank, which is a complete surprise. Market feedback, right? Of course, they're going to be sharing this project with people outside of the classroom. But before they do that, we hold business meetings in class where they get a chance to share their ideas with each other, practice their pitches. They're presented with questions that they still have and hope that the group might be able to help them. So it's a business meeting / roundtable, really cool opportunity for them. My feedback, obviously, besides rubrics, is going to come with a lot of just, pats on the shoulder and what's going on today, and check-ins every class period, see what progress is being made. Expert feedback, like I mentioned earlier, when they come back to the Shark Tank, but then also our guest speakers that do the Mills 50 project come back. So I think we already know the answer to this. It kind of, makes me feel weird even saying it at this point. Does it check the boxes? We changed it. It did, right? Learning from others, technology, lots of voice and choice, opportunities to present and learn how they want. And then making sure that as the facilitator in the room, we're assessing as they go and making sure that we're staying on course. So 39 minutes, we did it.
Good job. Good job. No, you can tell, like you said right before we started this, it really flows because you're sharing what you're doing in class, right? And real examples, what students are learning, and using this framework to put it together is really, really special. And hopefully, if you're an educator watching this, and I'm going to be helping with our digital media class here locally this fall, and I want to integrate some of these ideas and formats into the class a little bit to give it a little bit of structure, because I think a lot of times, Jason, a teacher hears the word entrepreneurship and they don't even know where to start. They don't even know the framework. And this, I think, for me at least, it kind of opened up my eyes to going, this is a format you could use to really implement this and build. And I'm assuming that's how you started this, right? It was a lot of experimenting and iterating, and you followed the same format as your students are, correct?
So this is typical. I like to teach kids by letting them be the thing that they are learning, right? Once I learned, 20 years ago, don't teach the textbook, that like opened up all of these other possibilities, right? Matt Miller is famous for ditch that textbook, but I ditched my textbook way before that book ever came out. Although I love Matt Miller, let's just be clear. But if you're going to do that, right, you're not going to read from a script, then what are you going to do? I'm not the knower of all, so that's not going to be the option where I'm just going to grant and bestow all my wisdom on them. So I got to bring in the experts. And how do we access those experts? They're on the internet. They're our parents. They're our neighbors. They're our coffee shop owners. So once you sort of enter that mindset, the rest tends to fall into place. This article just made sense as a way for me to test something I really thought already was going on. I just wanted to make sure.
It confirmed it. Yeah. Well, fantastic. I'm going to share the takeaway PDF that Jason put together just as a resource for you. And I'm going to share my screen here and we'll pull that up. Jason, you want to just real quick kind of briefly go over this? This will be linked in the recap with the embedded or recording that you're watching right now.
Awesome. So yeah, what I wanted to do was really just restate the 5 ideas that we just discussed, so that anyone outside of entrepreneurship or as an entrepreneurship teacher could start with something and implement any of these ideas or all of these ideas right away in their curriculum planning. So we're starting something new, and so we use the acronym START. Seek knowledge from others. What opportunities are you providing for your kids to learn from someone other than you and other than that textbook? I know most of us are doing that already, but let's just be mindful of that to make those opportunities as often as possible. Tap into technology. If your kids are given iPads, please don't let them become, rocks in the room or paperweights. Give your kids opportunities to use the technology that your school may be providing if you are lucky to have it. And if you're not high tech or you're not using it, the kids are. They can help you create this stuff if it's not something you're comfortable with. Learn from them and learn from YouTube. Everything's on YouTube. Act, act on choices, right? Give kids voice and choice. This is something we hear all the time as educators, and I can't reiterate it enough. Um, Allow kids to consume information how they want and give them options: podcasts, videos, articles, books. Their learning styles are different. How they consume information best is different. So let them have a voice in that decision, but also the way they present. Some kids are not going to be comfortable all the time presenting to an audience of 30. They'd rather make a documentary and let people watch it when they leave the room. I think that's fair depending on what subject you're teaching. As an entrepreneurship teacher, I need them to also be public speaking. But as a history class, maybe that's not your standard. Maybe that's not your goal. So what creation opportunities are there in your projects? And then make sure you're not giving them a project and then checking in 3 months later. And I know that's not something great educators would ever do. But I think sometimes we create these big projects and then forget how often we need to be checking. We get lost in our emails at our desk. We need to be on our feet. We need to be walking around because if we're giving them all this freedom, we also need to monitor all this freedom sometimes because we're talking about kids and they get off
Yeah.
track sometimes.
Yes. Well, if it happens to us as adults, we know it's going to be happening to students, and I think that is the role now of the teacher is they're a facilitator. I think that's what you're describing here is you're facilitating learning. Yes, you are learning yourself. You're gathering people together, curating resources, but you're not sitting up in front of the class every day sharing knowledge that you possess and only you possess, and they have to get it from your mouth to their ears, right? It's a completely different way to learn. And because we have all these tools, and I believe this is the model for future ready educators to start personalizing their learning through the whatever curriculum, whatever class you have. We believe entrepreneurship is a great model for that, and I'm so thankful for the work that you've been doing, Jason, and the valuable resource this is for educators. So, where can people find you, Jason, other than if you just search Jason Shaffer in FRE community, you can ping him, you can send him a direct message. But I know you've got a YouTube channel that you're promoting, and obviously the socials as well. What are those?
Yeah, so I just recently started a 5 to 8 minute episode web series on sort of helping people get started with this process. We have produced, I think, 3 episodes so far, but all that stuff can be found on mybrandprofessor.com. It's a website that not only hosts that, but also will allow you to get in touch with me, see some of the other things we've been involved with, including a link to the book that you mentioned earlier, Taylor. It's
Yes.
just a lot of great things happening at once. So really proud.
Yeah, you guys can go to mybrandprofessor.com, grab this book. This is full of activities and lessons for helping students develop their own personal brand that can be layered into a lot of the things that they're Jason just went through in his class, entrepreneurship class as well, as they develop ideas and things like that. Your personal brand is kind of happening at the same time you're creating products and services for your business. So I believe fully in that, that students need to know that. Colleges are looking at it, employers are looking at it, and students need to have a brand that represents who they are, and going through that self-discovery process of who they are and how they were created is really, really important, and not trying to be someone different online than who they are in real life, and separating those two. They're the same. And so really important work you're doing.
Thanks.
I can't wait to see the stories. I know you probably already have students that have been through your classes as you've been in education, but the ones that are going through this process, when they come back to you and actually start a business, or the business that they started in middle school led to the next idea, is going to be really, really special.
It's very cool. The 10-year window that I have to wait is sometimes stressful, but I'm finally seeing some of my sixth graders from 17 years ago becoming doctors. So it eventually
Yeah,
works
fun,
out.
fun. All right, well, get connected with Jason, folks. Thank you guys for watching this recording here on Future Ready Educators community. Please share this. It's a free community. We're talking about digital media, broadcasting, business, and technology. If you have an educator that's looking for resources in that, we have a bunch of free resources. We also have two products that we sell, which is a digital media curriculum and broadcasting education as well. We have a student broadcasting playbook if you're looking to start a broadcasting program. And at your school, we've got it for you, and going to be continuing to add some other products as well that you can get. So you can get that roadmap, get the layout, just like Jason kind of teased you with a little bit. We're looking to break into the business and technology space as well with similar products. So again, great to be with you. I'm Taylor Siebert, Jason Shaffer here on FRE, powered by Strive Education. Make it a great day.